At 65, Robin Roberts stands as one of the most admired figures in American television. But behind the smile, behind the calm voice millions wake up to every morning on Good Morning America, there's a tragedy most people never truly understood. Her journey has been filled with battles that would break the strongest among us, and yet she carried them with a grace that left viewers unaware of just how heavy the burden really was. For decades, Americans have known Robin as the anchor who brings warmth to their mornings, but what they didn't see were the late-night hospital visits, the painful phone calls, the lifelong emotional scars, and the devastating moment that changed her life forever. The truth is far more heartbreaking than what has ever been shown on camera. Her story isn't just about illness, or fame, or perseverance. It's about a woman who kept fighting even when her body gave up, when her heart shattered, and when the world expected her to stay strong simply because she always had. At 65, the reality of what Robin Roberts has endured is finally coming to light. And once you hear it, you'll never look at her the same way again. For decades, Robin Roberts has been the embodiment of poise, professionalism, and warmth. Every morning, millions of viewers have tuned in to watch her face light up screens across the country. A steady presence delivering news, interviews, and stories that mattered. But behind that radiant smile, behind the voice that millions trusted, there has always been a story rarely told, a story of heartbreak, perseverance, and resilience that has shaped the very person America thinks it knows. At 65, Robin's public battles have been well documented. Her courageous fight against a rare blood disorder and her fight against breast cancer made headlines, earning admiration and respect from fans and colleagues alike. But those battles were only part of the picture. What most people don't realize is the weight she carried. Behind closed doors, the personal tragedies that never made it to television screens but influenced every moment of her life. It began with the quiet moments away from the cameras. Friends describe a woman who, despite her radiant public persona, spent years navigating emotional turbulence with a strength that few could imagine. Behind her warm laugh and unwavering professionalism were nights of restless thought, days of quiet anxiety, and a constant balancing act between personal struggle and professional responsibility. She carried the burden of protecting her family, managing her own health, and remaining a symbol of hope for her viewers, all while navigating private pain that few could ever understand. As Robin entered her 60s, the intensity of her personal struggles only grew. The weight of years of health battles, family challenges, and the relentless pressure of public expectation compounded, creating a silent storm she bore with grace. Sources close to her say that even when facing setbacks that would have derailed most people, she refused to let her audience see the cracks, determined to maintain the inspiring persona millions relied on. The tragedy she endured isn't a single dramatic event, it's a series of deeply human experiences, layered and complex, that reflect both loss and the resilience of the human spirit. From moments of fear for her health to the emotional toll of seeing loved ones face their own struggles, Robin navigated each obstacle with an unyielding commitment to keep moving forward. Every setback became another chapter in a story of courage. Every challenge an opportunity to demonstrate strength. Yet, for all her public triumphs, it's the private moments that define her most poignantly. Friends and colleagues recall conversations where she confessed exhaustion, heartbreak, and fear, yet tempered them with reflection, hope, and resolve. She often spoke of the delicate balance between vulnerability and strength, a tightrope walk she mastered quietly over decades. And now, at 65, the full scope of her personal tragedy is finally being understood. Fans may have seen her face on screens, heard her voice on air, but few have grasped the depth of the battles she fought in silence. The heartbreak she endured is a testament not just to her resilience, but to the reality that even those who inspire millions carry invisible burdens that shape their lives in ways the public rarely sees. Robin Roberts' story is a reminder that strength is not always loud, and heroism is not always public. Sometimes it is found in quiet perseverance, in facing life's hardest moments without letting the world see the struggle. And in that quiet courage, Robin has not only survived, but inspired a generation. By the time Robin Roberts reached her mid-60s, Her public image as a symbol of resilience was firmly cemented. Millions knew her as the unwavering anchor of Good Morning America, the woman who could make even the most daunting news seem approachable, who could console, inspire, and inform with equal grace. Yet few understood the magnitude of the personal battles she fought away from the cameras, battles that were far more taxing than any headline or broadcast segment could ever capture. Her health challenges were the most visible of these struggles. The fight against myelodysplastic syndrome, the grueling treatments, and the eventual bone marrow transplant were covered extensively by media outlets. Robin handled these moments with a dignity that inspired her colleagues and viewers alike. But the true impact of her illness went far beyond what was seen on screen. There were days when she was physically exhausted, emotionally drained, and mentally strained. Every step required courage, and every decision carried a weight she could not share publicly. What compounded her struggles was the constant pressure of public expectation. Robin knew that millions were watching, that her every word, every expression, and every on-air performance would be analyzed. Yet she felt an obligation to remain the embodiment of hope and strength, to reassure viewers even when her own hope wavered. Sources close to her describe a woman who would spend hours preparing segments, reviewing scripts, and attending meetings, all while fighting her own internal battles, pain she rarely revealed to anyone. Outside her inner circle, family and personal relationships, too, bore the strain. The burden of maintaining normalcy, of shielding loved ones from her fears, weighed heavily. She navigated these responsibilities quietly, often sacrificing her own emotional needs to ensure the well-being of those around her. Friends recall evenings where she would call simply to check on someone she loved, even after enduring a long day of treatment or hospital visits, putting their concerns above her own exhaustion. Yet perhaps the hardest battle was the isolation that often comes with public life. Even surrounded by colleagues, friends, and family, Robin experienced moments of profound solitude. The pressure to remain strong, combined with the reality that very few truly understood her experience, created a sense of being alone in the fight, a solitude invisible to millions of fans who admired her. Despite these burdens, Robin's response was not retreat but action. She channeled her pain into purpose, advocating for medical research, mentoring younger journalists, and using her platform to highlight stories that mattered. Her tragedies, while deeply personal, became a source of connection and inspiration for countless others facing their own struggles. And yet, as she approaches 65, the full emotional cost of these experiences has become impossible to ignore. Friends and insiders now describe the weight she carried over the decades, the sleepless nights, the anxious uncertainty, the fear, and the heartbreak that she hid behind a radiant public persona. It is this hidden dimension of her life, far more than any health scare or on-air moment, that defines the tragedy of Robin Roberts. Her story is a reminder of the quiet heroism inherent in resilience. Robin's strength is not only in surviving illness or facing adversity publicly, it is in enduring, protecting, and inspiring, even when the personal cost is immense. The heartbreak she endured at 65 is a testament to the complex reality of human strength. It is messy, hidden, painful, yet profoundly impactful. Robin Roberts teaches the world that true courage often comes in silence, that heroism is not always celebrated with applause, and that even the strongest among us carry battles invisible to the eye but no less real. By the time Robin Roberts entered her 65th year, the public saw her as a figure of unwavering strength, the comforting presence millions trusted to deliver the day's news with clarity, empathy, and grace. Yet behind that composed exterior was a life shaped by hardship, sacrifice, and heartbreak that few could ever fully understand. The story of her resilience is not just one of surviving medical crises. It is the story of carrying burdens that are invisible to the world, while continuing to inspire everyone around her. The truth is, Robin's life has been a balancing act between public expectation and private struggle. Every on-air segment required meticulous preparation, energy, and focus. Yet off-camera she navigated deeply personal challenges that could have easily derailed her career. Colleagues often described her as tireless, always putting others' needs above her own. But those who knew her well understood the cost of such devotion. Behind her smile was exhaustion. Behind her poise was a constant fight to maintain equilibrium in a life marked by trials. Few could imagine, even her most celebrated victories carried a weight of hidden sorrow. The triumph over myelodysplastic syndrome and subsequent bone marrow transplant, which inspired thousands, came after months of grueling treatment, physical pain, and emotional turmoil. The process tested not only her body but her spirit. While viewers saw hope, courage, and determination, Robin privately experienced fear, uncertainty, and the heavy loneliness that accompanies any life-threatening illness. She understood that sharing every struggle would not protect her, her family, or her career, and so she bore much of it alone, keeping the true depth of her suffering shielded from public view. The personal tragedies extended beyond health. Robin faced moments of loss, uncertainty, and the quiet heartbreak of seeing loved ones face challenges she could neither prevent nor control. Each of these experiences added layers of emotional complexity to her life, often leaving her navigating guilt, worry, and sorrow alongside her public responsibilities. She became skilled at compartmentalizing, presenting a confident exterior while processing grief internally, a skill few can master without consequence. Yet what makes Robin's story profoundly heartbreaking is the juxtaposition of strength and vulnerability. She has dedicated decades to being a source of inspiration, while simultaneously enduring hardships that few would expect of a television icon. The emotional weight of carrying these experiences silently, coupled with the relentless pace of public life, paints a picture of resilience that is both extraordinary and deeply human. Even at 65, Robin's journey continues to challenge her physically, emotionally, and mentally. Friends describe a woman who, despite facing setbacks, continues to rise, advocate, and mentor, drawing on the lessons learned from decades of struggle. Every public smile, every on-air moment, and every act of guidance reflects not only her talent, but the extraordinary fortitude required to remain steadfast under immense pressure. Robin Roberts' story is more than a narrative of survival. It is a testament to the cost of resilience, the heartbreak endured silently, the sacrifices made without acknowledgement, and the courage required to continue living with purpose despite relentless adversity. For viewers and fans, understanding this unseen dimension of her life elevates admiration to profound respect. It reminds the world that even those who seem unshakable face trials that leave indelible marks, and that true strength is measured not only by what is visible, but by what is endured quietly. With dignity. As Robin moves forward in her 65th year, the tragedy she has faced and the resilience she embodies remain inseparable. They are a reminder that life's challenges do not discriminate, that heroism is often silent, and that even icons of courage are human, carrying burdens beyond the public eye. In Robin Roberts, the world sees a symbol of hope, but beneath it lies a story of perseverance, heartbreak, and the extraordinary strength required to continue inspiring. While facing life's most difficult battles. By 65, Robin Roberts' life was a study in contrasts. The world saw an anchor of confidence, someone whose poise and energy seemed inexhaustible. Millions admired her professionalism, her warm smile, and the reassuring voice that had been a morning ritual for decades. Yet behind the camera, behind the carefully crafted public image, Robin's reality was far more complex, marked by struggles that were largely invisible to her audience, but deeply felt by her. Even as her career thrived, the personal cost of her professional life became increasingly apparent. Being in the public eye is not just a matter of performing, it is a responsibility, an expectation to remain composed, knowledgeable, and empathetic at all times. For Robin, that meant her private grief, her worries, and her pain could not easily be shared or expressed. There were days when exhaustion weighed heavily, when the emotional labor of maintaining a calm, inspiring presence clashed with the silent storms she navigated internally. Each smile on air was carefully balanced against moments of vulnerability no one would ever witness. Robin's health battles had left lasting effects that were both physical and emotional. Even after treatment and recovery, she faced lingering fatigue, the psychological strain of uncertainty, and the constant awareness of her mortality. Yet the most profound challenges were rarely those that made headlines. The heartbreak she carried often came from the small, quiet moments, the worry over family members, the regret over time lost to illness, the weight of personal sacrifices made in silence. These were not dramatic moments captured by cameras, but the subtler, ongoing pressures that can shape a person's life far more deeply than any single event. Friends and colleagues have described Robin as someone who internalized much of her struggle, choosing to protect others from her pain while shouldering it herself. This selfless approach earned admiration, but also compounded the emotional toll. There were times when the demands of work and life collided so sharply that even her closest confidants could not fully comprehend the depth of what she endured. Yet Robin carried on, demonstrating a resilience that inspired both those around her and the millions who followed her journey from afar. And then there was the emotional paradox. The more she gave, the more she felt the weight of expectation. Each broadcast, each interview, each interaction required careful management not just of facts and narratives, but of her own emotional state. The public assumed her life was under control, yet the reality was a constant negotiation between duty and vulnerability, visibility and privacy. In that tension, Robin learned lessons few will ever understand: how to lead with empathy while navigating personal grief, how to project confidence while confronting uncertainty, and how to inspire hope even while enduring heartbreak. Her 65th year brought both reflection and revelation. Robin had faced decades of challenges, health crises, personal trials, and the quiet struggles of sustaining a life in the public eye. Yet she remained steadfast, a figure of resilience whose strength was defined not only by survival, but by the grace with which she carried the burdens of her private life. The tragedy she endured is not a single event, but a continuum, a lifetime of confronting hardship while remaining a beacon for others. Robin Roberts' story is a testament to the human capacity for endurance. It shows that true heroism is not always visible, and that the public figure we admire may bear invisible scars we cannot imagine. Her journey reminds the world that strength and vulnerability coexist, and that even those who seem unshakable face moments of profound difficulty. At 65, the tragedy of her life is beyond heartbreaking, but it also illuminates the extraordinary resilience that defines her as both a professional icon and a human being.